Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Adalar of Adalar is a new open world action RPG that just got released in early access on Steam. If you're following this channel, you might remember that I already covered this game in the past a couple of times. Back then we only had the demo, but now the game is officially released, well, in early access at least, but we have a lot to talk about. I had a long play session last night, so we're going to talk about my experience with the game, what it has to offer in its current state, and should you decide to buy it and support this developer. Speaking about that, Peakway Software had an interesting forum post about setting your expectations. You should definitely read that post before you decide to buy this game. I just hope that more developers will start doing something like this when they release the game in early access. Anyway, let's start talking about the game. When you start a new game, you get the option to create your character. Customization options are pretty decent and extensive. You can choose between a couple of different races, but the human character models definitely look the best and they are the most developed race in the current version of the game. When you're done with the looks, you can choose a class template and a couple of traits. There are no actual classes in the game, this option will only increase certain character stats. You can select the template class only for the starting weapon of your choice and go through all the stats manually if you wish. The traits you get will affect all the dialogue options in the game. In most dialogue situations, you will see the extra option from your selected traits. After all of that is done, you can start the campaign. This campaign is described as a showcase of the gameplay's features and design concepts of the early access release. We'll get a separate campaign for the full release at a much larger scale. Anyway, you start the game on an unfamiliar island after the magical storm sunk your ship. The quest you get is pretty simple, you look for other survivors and you can choose to group up with them until you get to the camp. But you are free to explore the island however you want. And speaking about that, the exploration is hands down the best thing about this game in its current state. This island reminds me of Morrowind, probably because it feels so alien. The vegetation is kinda crazy here, the whole place is like a jungle and a swamp at the same time. It feels really unique and more importantly it's really fun to explore. You can play in first or third person mode, which is not so common in action RPGs these days. By the way, I just did a video about this discussion, so you can check that out if you're interested. The music in the game is one of the reasons for such an enjoyable atmosphere. The soundtrack is a great fit for exploring this island, it really makes it magical. The gameplay itself needs a lot more work, especially the combat system. While it does have a lot of potential because it can look really smooth, the way it actually feels is completely different. If I would have to point my finger at the biggest problem, it would be the lack of a proper hit feedback. You just don't feel like you're hitting anything, even though the health of your enemy is going down. The game definitely needs some specific visual hit feedback in combat, which would drastically improve the overall feeling. Sound effects are not bad, but without any visual cues that your attack landed, the game lacks the feeling of impact. I'm pretty sure the developer is well aware of this, but we have to point that out. The combat is entirely stamina based, but it doesn't seem really restrictive when your stamina is low, you can still perform every action, although this might be bugged. Almost every action in the game will require stamina: running, attacking, stab dodging, casting spells, and so on. The jump button feels really clunky, but fortunately you don't have to use it a lot, even while you're trying to climb. Although I'm pretty sure they will improve the jump in the future. If they manage to polish the combat, I can really see a huge potential for the gameplay in general. The bow gameplay feels a bit better, especially in first person, but it suffers from the same issues. When it comes to magic, you learn different spells by acquiring spellbooks. As you explore the island, you will find different weapons, armors and spells. This is a good time to talk about the actual system behind the combat. Adalar of Adalar has an action bar system where you can assign different weapons, consumables and magic spells. This allows you to easily cast a different spell or change your weapon in the middle of a fight. When you gain enough experience, you can level up by opening the character screen. And once again, you can see all the character stats that you can increase, you get 10 points for each level. The number of available stats seems to be more than enough to make a lot of different builds, and the stats are pretty self-explanatory. There are a lot of items that you can loot while exploring, and the game doesn't have an inventory limit, which is a great design decision in my opinion. I really think that more RPGs should have an unlimited inventory space unless they are trying to make a specific mechanic around this feature, like in Outward for example. Otherwise, limiting the inventory space with a random number just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, armors and weapons are categorized by different quality. Different quality items have unique colors and names obviously. You have the option to customize the colors of each armor piece that you find, and that's a pretty cool feature. It doesn't cost anything and you can do it by just opening your inventory. Each armor piece has at least a couple of different colors that you can customize. As for the other gameplay features, also Adalar has a crafting system for armors and weapons, foods and potions. When you reach the main camp in the campaign, you will discover crafting stations where you can see how all of this works. The material you need for crafting is obviously all over the island, so you should loot everything you see. The game gives you a first companion right after you start, and like we already mentioned, you start gathering the rest of survivors that can also follow you if you choose so. This is a good moment to say that you can play this game in 4-player online co-op as well. It's always great to hear that you can experience this kind of RPG with a friend. Peakway Software is hoping to attract a modding community for this game, and they included the level editor in the game itself. You can edit the existing content in the game, or generate a new island and use all the tools that developers have. If Isles of Adalar manages to attract some good modders, I can only imagine what kind of content they can create. Now we have to talk about some technical issues. Unsurprisingly, you can find a lot of bugs in the current version of the game. The most annoying bug that I found is when I try to save or load the game. The menu will just stop taking any inputs and I have to force quit the game. This happened more than once and I lost a character that had a couple of hours of gameplay. Well, technically I didn't lose him, the save is still there but I can't load the game. Other bugs that I found are not huge, mostly some collision issues on the map, and once my follower just decided to stop moving at all. The AI behavior in fights can be really weird sometimes, but it's nothing game breaking. In the process of making this video, Peakway Software posted a roadmap for the game. Their main goal is to focus on bug fixing and polish, and after that they plan to add more quests and content, new gameplay systems, animations and so on. So is the game worth getting in its current state? Well, like I said in the beginning, you should first read the post from the game developers. The game is obviously not even close to being finished, there is a lot more work to be done. The whole point of this early access is to help the developer with funding. I truly hope they will be able to finish the game in the future, because I think it has a lot of potential to be a great RPG. Even in its current state, it manages to be really addicting, at least in my case. I just want to explore the whole island and see everything that I can. But that's going to be hard with all the bugs in the current version. It would be smart to wait until some major content update and a couple of patches that will fix all the bugs. But if you want to support the ongoing development, the game is currently €17 on Steam. I will keep my eye on the game and update you guys when it receives any major patches. Tell me your opinions about this game in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more content and click on the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. Special thanks to my Patreons, and if you as well want to become one of them, all the links are in the description. Patreon is definitely the best place to directly support my work, and every contribution is highly appreciated. That will be all, and I'll see you in the next one.